Here are my top 5 condos to live in. Stay tuned to find out exactly which one they are. Promise you, it'll be worth it. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. So glad you could join me here today. On this week's video, I'm going to continue with the condo series. And this one, I'm going to talk about the top 5 condos in the downtown core to live in. There is a little bit of bias in this because I lived in one of these buildings, but it's to give you an idea of all the ones I hear great reviews about and also what all my, where we tell our clients to look in if they want a nice condo to live in downtown. So the first one in no particular order, but this is the one that's one of my favorite, is 75 Portland. Now 75 Portland is perfectly situated, perfectly nestled, as realtors would say, in between Bathurst and Spadina along King West. So if you're kind of into the scene of lots of great restaurants, you go out for drinks after work, before pandemic times, or you plan after pandemic times, and you want just a ton of amenities, you want to be at King Street West. It's a good investment too, because just right off to the side here, that's where the King Toronto project's coming. And, they sold for almost $2,000 a foot. And right now in 75 Portland, you can still kind of get in for like $1,100 to $1,200 a foot, depending on which layout you have. Now, one of the cons is that if you are in one of these smaller kind of less desirable, less expensive units, then you're going to be having a U-shaped corridor where you face one another. And that's not the greatest. But if you are looking for like a 2-bedroom, then you can probably get one of those units that are either facing north or facing south with wicked terraces. And some of these terraces have even fireplaces. Yeah. And one of my favorite things about 75 Portland is that these are soft lofts, meaning that they are created as condos, but they got the exposed concrete, kind of that industrial vibe going. Not a hard loft where you get, converted from old building, because we have higher ceiling heights there. This one's just kind of a good mix of in between of like actual condo and kind of like exposed concrete and kind of the brick and beam kind of feel, right? So love that building. The maintenance fees are also like very reasonable for how old the building is, which is a good thing, because if it's an old building with good maintenance fees, it means it's been managed for, managed well for a very long time. So there's no worries about maintenance fees increasing like crazy. It's just like the perfect sweet spot in terms of location, prices, maintenance fees, and etc. And if you can get a parking spot, fantastic. Number 2, I also have a soft spot for this one, and I'm not going to say why. You can figure it out. But 25 Lower Simcoe. This is phase 4 of the Infinity condos. And it's very specifically this one, okay? And the reason why I picked phase 4 is because in phases 1, 2, and 3, they were a little bit older and I didn't like the kind of feel of it. And the maintenance fees are also higher in the other one. So the newer one actually has the lowest maintenance fees, even though it shares the maintenance fees with 19 Grand Trunk. It's not as high as the other ones, which I think is 30 and 17, right? So you want to be in phase 4 because of that reason. The second reason is it has nicer finishes. Now, granted, you can always renovate and make the other ones look nicer, say if it's an older phase one, because when I talk about how great the Infinity condos are, it's because it's really well located, right? Like 25 Lower Simcoe actually has a path connection that cuts through ICE condos and into the Maple Leaf Square Garden, so you can get into the Longos, the LCBO, and you also can get into Union Station when you cut across. Yes, you could do it, but it's really not the most effective way to get into Union Station or anything, just because it's quicker to go on ground. But the idea is that it's there. Now, if you are looking to live in phase 4 and like the newer finishes and lower maintenance fee, you'll know that you can probably get it around for like $1,150 a foot right now at the time of shooting, which is really good value considering that a lot of newer condos are trading at $1,300, $1,400 a foot. And another reason why I really like this building too is that for anyone who likes to cook a lot, you'll know that there's a lot of issues with condos when you're cooking because you have like a wall and a bank of kind of appliances and stuff. They're always really, really small, right? So, and that's kind of the theme with newer condos. But Lower Simcoe 25 is right in that sweet spot where you get new enough appliances, stainless steel, but they're still wide enough, right? So like your stove is like 30 inches wide, your fridge is 30 inches wide. So, every inch makes a difference. But the point of all of this is on top of the larger appliances, you get like a U-shaped island where it's just more functional to cook as opposed to having everything banged against the wall, right? So if you love to cook, this is a good place where you have like, the actual chef's kitchen. Right. And another cool thing I love about this building is like basketball court and like long size swimming pool. Another good tip for you is that if you're looking to live in here long term, you want to buy one that's west facing and pay a premium to it because you go into Roundhouse Park, right? Which is this little green park here with the Steam Whistle Brewery. And this is basically never going to go anywhere. Right. So you get a sweet CN Tower view if you look up, right? Because you're on the lower floor than the CN Tower. And you'll never have your view blocked by and buy anything that comes up. So it's a very good blend of location, pricing, views, and a nice kitchen. So that's why it's right in that perfect spot for me in terms of what's going to happen. And it's also maintained very well, right? So great buy if you want to live somewhere. And in terms of rental to owner, it's like half from the last time I checked the status, which was like 3 months ago. Number 3. This one is on a lot of people's favorite, which is 318 King Street East. This is a building built by Brad Lamb. Whether you like him or not, this building is actually built very well. And one of the things I like about his buildings is that there's gas range in the condo. That is very, very good. Again, for anyone who's cooking, right? And when you're in 318 King, it wasn't as popular before, but like there's a lot more kind of like hustle and bustle happening, a lot of like restaurants, a lot of shops and amenities that's happening along the King Street and Adelaide Street that's running right across on the east side all the way to Leslieville. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening out and it's being really developed. And you can get in here for like $1,100 a foot right now, even though it sounds really expensive for how far east you are, for the type of product you're getting and how well maintained it is and how easy it is to access a highway. I really like that. So if you're going to have a car, you can really easily get along the DVP right here when you cut across Queen Street up here, and you can go north. Or the alternative is you can basically just hop on stuff and go right onto the Gardner, right? So it's very good for transit. And if you're trying to get into downtown, you can just cut right across King Street right here on the streetcar. Now, there's talks about the subway coming up over here. Now, I don't know what kind of disturbance it's going to have if and when this line starts building, but I suspect it will have some, look at the Eglinton RT. But in terms of like value for kind of square footage, the price, the views and everything, spectacular. And if you are facing west, if you're high enough floor, you can actually get a very good city view of the CN Tower and a lot of the buildings that are coming up in the financial district and in the east side of downtown. If this is the type of content you enjoy, make sure you help us spread the knowledge out there by smashing the like button and subscribing to the Prime Property channel, because every single week we make content like this just so that we can share with you and be transparent and honest about what's happening in the real estate market. And whenever that you think of real estate, those guys, Zen and his team, he knows exactly what he's talking about. I'll make sure to book a call with him using the link right here. It's www.chaozen.com to schedule a call to determine whether you're buying, selling, or investing, and we can kind of point you in the right direction and help you with that transaction. Number 4, 8 Charlotte and 25 Oxley. I purposely just kind of bundled this one together because this is a very sweet spot for me in terms of where I would always recommend my clients to buy and invest, right? So let me explain to you why. So you're in entertainment district. You are literally in between King West, let's say where the young professionals play and a lot of amenities and restaurants are, or you can go to the other side of it, which is the east side, and you're right in financial district where all the offices are, right? So you're smack down in the middle. You can either walk left or walk right, and you hit into a major neighborhood that is very bumping, right? Now, in entertainment district, it's very hard for you to have any views that are exposed anymore because there's constantly a lot of buildings being built. And when you're building constantly and there's little land, the prices keep escalating. So there's been pre-cons in this area for $1,600 a foot. But if you're going to buy and live in a building, Charlotte right now is about $1,250 to $1,300 a foot, which is on a little bit above average side compared to the first few that we talked about. But in terms of location and finishes, I think it's worth it. And then 25 Oxley is actually, really well priced. It's like $1,050 to $1,100, but you lose a lot of the views because Oxley is tucked into this little street right here. Now, between these two buildings, right, you're right perfectly short walk to King and Spadina. You're going to be across from the LCBO that just kind of reopened and relocated. But you just have to keep in mind that if you want to live in here, view is going to be very, very difficult for you to get in these complexes. What you're paying for here is the location and some of the finishes that you're getting and the value, because the fact that they're well-maintained older buildings, but they still got their cachet, right? And it just works really well. Now, if you are going to buy in 8 Charlotte, make sure you watch out for facing east because there's a development coming there. It will be blocked. It is coming and you may be living through a lot of construction. So I would try to avoid that. But if you're looking at a 2-bedroom space, if you're facing west, specifically southwest, wicked views, right? But you have to keep in mind, Great Golf is building 411 King condo right here. So there may be a little bit of block this. I don't know how much it is going to be until they start building, but it's something to watch out for. In regards to Oxley, it's a very, very small street. Your views are essentially blocked everywhere, but it's very much a no-frills building where the maintenance fees are very low. There's not many amenities, but it's just a nice little way you can like walk into a small street, get into your place, not get disturbed. It's very quiet and very peaceful. And that's kind of why I think these two are the great values in this entire area and entertainment district, because of the fact that you're tucked into a little corner. No one's going to disturb you. You have peace and quiet right in the middle of all the hustle and bustle that is King West and entertainment district. And my final one here, we got the Fort York complex. This is built by Lanterra. So you got 209, 215, 219, and 231 Fort York. So this is one of the older buildings, and I've always recommended this building for many multitude of reasons. Way back when Airbnb was very popular, you can make a lot of money. 215 and 209 is actually very good for it. It was one of the first few buildings to allow for Airbnb, and they still do. So you got to watch out for that if you are living there. But a lot of people didn't like it because Fort York was kind of like in the middle of nowhere before. But now that prices have gone more expensive and you get a lot more kind of amenities being built here. You got your Farm Boy, your LCBO, your Loblaws is coming from the Concord complex right here, the flagship one. And you're getting talks about, Ontario Place being redeveloped. Fort York is kind of like in the heart of everything right now, because you can walk to Liberty Village and get all the amenities over here in like 10 minutes or so, or you can basically walk over to where City Place is and right up into King West, right? So it is very, very, very good in terms of location. Now, it wasn't before there was all this development, right? And you can get here for like $1,100 a foot with parking. And a lot of the times, because there's nothing around you over here, right? Look, you got Garrison Commons up here. You got Coronation Park over here. There's nothing coming up on this side. There's some condos coming up here, but if you're on like the 20th, 30th floor, you kind of overlook it. So you kind of have good views when you're facing outside of the complex. Now, if you're facing inside of the complex, obviously the view is not that great and you can be closer to Gardner on the north side of these two buildings. But most of the time, if you're facing west, southwest, or kind of face southeast where you can see some of Billy Bishop, the views are wicked. Like right now, you can see the lake that's completely frozen and it's amazing. And the building is super well maintained. The maintenance fees are so good right now that I think it was like at $5 million last time I checked, which is really high. And they had enough reserve fund to actually refurbish the building, right? So the building's somewhere between 10 to 15 years old, and like between all four complexes. And they've had enough money where they can actually update the lobby and the doors of the units so that actually looks newer than what it actually is. So the value here is that you can buy something with good layout. Sometimes with the U-shaped kitchen, you have parking, you have good views, it's well maintained. And if you want to make it really pretty, you can also renovate it. So you can add value to it in a building that's going to last because it's well maintained. So that's why we really like this. But if you are concerned about the Airbnb, you probably want to stay into the 219 and 231 Fort York complex. So this is phase 3 and 4 instead of 1 and 2. Now, whether you agree with my top 5 condos or not, let me know in the comment section below, or if you think I kind of, shafted one, you let me know. But these are my top 5 with a little bit of biases from my experience in the past, okay? Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.